Hello, healthy people, and welcome back to the Organelle podcast. Today we're exploring testosterone, and somewhat more concerningly, why we currently find ourselves amidst an epidemic of it. We're going to navigate through why we think testosterone levels are what they are, the undeniable importance it plays as a sex hormone, and of course, what we can do to improve it. As always, I'm Xavior Greenhound, and joining me will be none other than the Organelle digital health platform's founding practitioner, Lionel Godwin. So without further ado, let's all take the next step on our health journeys. In 1999, the average male between the ages of 20 and 30 had a testosterone level of 601 nanograms per deciliter. In as recent as 2016, the average male between 20 and 30 had a testosterone level of 451 nanograms per deciliter. That's a wholesale drop of 150 nanograms per deciliter in 16 years, or roughly 25%. Lionel, why do you think that is?
Oh, really good, really good question. For me, it comes back to a whole range of contributory lifestyle factors. Most importantly, we now live with increased stress level. We have a lot more exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals, has a really significant impact. We have much more sedentary lifestyles. We have much poorer sleep habits with more distractions than we ever once had, and we've got significant changes in our diet and our nutrition.
Yeah, I really want to understand myself, and then hopefully through that we can teach the listener as well. How does testosterone actually work? First off, what does it do for us?
So understand that both males and females have testosterone. So testosterone is a hormone produced by our testes, and for women, it's produced in much lesser amounts in their ovaries. So that's it in basic sense. For men in particular, it plays a really developmental role in our physical characteristics, in our muscle growth, in our bone density, in our red blood cell production. And there are different forms of testosterone as well.
So we know what it does. What is it specifically? Is it a hormone? Is it a singular molecule? Is it a measurement of a collection of things? What
It,
is testosterone?
it's a hormone that binds to androgen receptors in our tissues effectively, and that then triggers a whole range of biological processes within the body. As I said, relating to our bone density, relating to muscle growth. Relating to red blood cell production. So, it's a really significant factor in our overall health and well-being, and plays a really significant part in our overall health and mental health as well.
Right, so we know what it does, we know what it is. How is it made? Where do we get it from?
Well, it's made via our testes. So our testes use a number of chemical processes to create the hormone, and these things are impacted by, again, our stress levels, our sleep habits, our nutrition, and nutrition more than anything plays a really significant part, as does sleep in the production of testosterone. Exercise obviously also plays a significant part in the production of testosterone, just through the normal biological processes that take place as a consequence of those factors.
Yeah, just to lay out a pretty simple, or at least I can comprehend, mental model of exactly what this looks like to our listener at home. Our brain signals our testes to produce testosterone when it gets certain environmental signs. The testes will then take the resources that we get through our nutrients and convert those into testosterone. That testosterone will then propagate through our body via our bloodstream and bind to various muscle fibers and hormone tissues and whatnot. And that will then have the effect of stimulating muscle growth, bone strength, mood, focus, a whole bunch of things that are all really important for our survival. So based on that really, or first of all, is that model roughly
Yeah,
accurate, Lionel?
that's effectively correct. It's binding to those androgen receptors within our tissue. Yes, that's as a
Yeah.
consequence of those biological factors.
Yeah, so it seems to me then that if we want to try and tackle the problem of I don't have enough testosterone, because I personally don't have enough testosterone. I've done a blood test recently, atrocious levels. Um, Ironically, I did a blood test, saw my testosterone levels, haven't eaten McDonald's since. So there's a strong correlation there.
Well, yeah, and
But
I just want to harbour on that point.
yeah,
That's those endocrine disrupting chemicals that we get from shit food, pardon my language, that can have a real impact on testosterone production. And this is something that we need to be very, very aware of. I talk about nutrition a lot in our podcast, and poor nutrition is a factor, and importantly, obviously, good nutrition is a factor.
yeah, and going back to our real simple model there, it seems to me that there are two things that we really need to harp on about when it comes to increasing testosterone. One of those is whatever it takes to send the signal from the brain to the testes to produce more. We need a reason to produce testosterone. And the second one is having a really high availability and really high quality of the building blocks of testosterone that we can get in through our nutrition. The building blocks are way more up your alley, and I think those are kind of more what we can provide for the listener. So, what are those building blocks? How can we effectively get more of those, Lionel?
So the building blocks are clearly reducing our stress levels because that reduces other hormones and chemicals that are released in the body. Obviously, sleep is a significant factor because that's when the body restores and regenerates, and a lot of chemical and hormonal activities take place. Vitamin D, really essential. Zinc, really, really essential. These are, what the body uses. These are part of the body's biology that we use to create testosterone. For people who really look at testosterone and are concerned by the levels of testosterone, these are the areas that I focus on: getting good sleep, getting, reducing the amount of stress, making sure we're doing physical activity. I also like to supplement if I can. If I'm not able to eat as well as I would like to, I supplement with some zinc. I supplement with ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is just a herb that we can use, the body can use to really boost testosterone levels as well. But I also make sure that the rest of my diet is really, really balanced in terms of good fats, good proteins, good vitamins, good minerals, good high fiber foods as well, and obviously antioxidant rich foods because that improves all of the body's biology.
Yeah, so let's narrow down on those essential nutrients because let's talk purely nutritional building blocks here. So, to my understanding, testosterone is derived originally from cholesterol,
Yes.
which is something we're going to get in effectively through healthy fats. You've said there that zinc is really important for this process, and so is vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other like basic nutritional fields that we should be checking in order to maximize testosterone?
Just the normal overall balance. Understand that we don't just ingest testosterone, cholesterol. The body produces cholesterol. Cholesterol plays a really important part in the structure of our cells. And if our cells are working well, then the cells are going to work much better in terms of the messaging that it receives. And that will then aid testosterone production. And, the better our cells are working, the better that testosterone production will be. Now, so what contributes to cells working well? Hydration, obviously, is really, really important. All of the nutrients that the cells need to protect themselves against oxidative stress, for instance. So, making sure we're getting really good antioxidant rich foods is vitally important. Protein plays a really significant part in hormone production. So we've got to make sure we're getting adequate protein. We've got to make sure that we are eating zinc rich foods. So these for me, and then again, good fats. Again, good fats really help with the flexibility within our cells. We want our cells, the more flexible our cells are, the better our cells are working. The less oxidative stress there is in our cells, again, the better our cells will work. So that's where good fats play a really important part, particularly omega-3 fats. They are really, really important. Polyphenol-rich foods are also vitally important. Again, just for this cellular function and for our bodies to work at a cellular level as well as we would like.
Okay, so we need the really good fats. We need high quality fats rather, high quality protein,
Omega-3 fats in particular.
omega threes. Yeah, good ways to get those building blocks there. Okay, let's talk about the other half of it, the environmental signals that we need to send from the brain in order to actually do something with those building blocks. What are the signals that our brain needs to take in?
The signals the brain is takes in are the signals that we get from the positive endorphins we release when we're exercising. The positive endorphins we get when we are less stressed, the positive endorphins we get from having good restful sleep. They're the three most significant factors in really good testosterone production.
I was not aware of that. I didn't know that the actual like feel good endorphins were the things that were signaling for testosterone production. That's really
Well,
interesting.
it's the natural processes that we get from the positive rush that we get from exercise. Well, that I particularly get, and I'm sure most people do when they exercise. 9 times out of 10, people will feel much better for exercise. They might feel really tired and you know, beat up by an exercise regime, but it really does, from a biological perspective within the body, create the perfect conditions for testosterone to be released, because again, that's part of that restorative and repair factors that come from testosterone.
Okay, okay. Ooh.
Have I
What do
confused you?
you think? Uh, no, no, I'm still following. What's the given that it is probably flying over a lot of people's heads? What is the highest ROI action that young men, particularly, should be taking to kind of fix this broken testosterone production problem?
All of the things that I just have alluded to
Yep.
this morning, Xavier. So that's good sleep, regular exercise, reducing stress, and great nutrition. So if you want to get a return on your investment, again, I use this term all the time. Become an active participant in your testosterone levels by making sure that you are exercising regularly, making sure that you are only eating nutrient dense foods, particularly those rich in zinc, particularly those rich in vitamin D, making sure that you're getting good restful sleep and good sleep habits, but also make sure you're getting good recovery as well. Create conditions where, you know, through providing good recovery and environments for good recovery, you generally are reducing stress there as well. So that has a real positive impact on testosterone production. Because if we're resting well and we're eating well, we're balancing out the body's chemistry and the body's hormonal processes. And we know from previous podcasts that, when we're getting good sleep, the body is in that restorative and repair mode where a lot of chemical and hormonal activities are taking place.
Double back to something I think we should have defined. What is an endorphin?
It's a feel good chemical, effectively. Um, it's it's it, it's a it's just it's a way of feeling. It's a biological response within the body that makes us feel better. It's a positive, it's a positive impacting event within our body.
Is it kind of, just to throw my like bro science hat on? Is it kind of like the hormone that facilitates the positive feedback loop that teaches us habits? It's like do the hard thing, feel good about it, repeat.
Yeah,
That's
it
what
does,
the endorphin.
and and that does, and that then opens up, the binding factors of testosterone in our tissues, because there's this positive environment that we've created. Part and parcel of being an active participant in our health and well-being is the positivity we create via our environment, and all of the things that I alluded to earlier around sleep, positive endorphins, um, you know. Vitamin D rich foods, zinc rich foods, exercise, lowering stress, better sleep. All of these things create this environment of positivity within the body. And the body, when it's in this much more positive state, it's removing inflammation. One of the biggest factors that can really impact on testosterone production is inflammation. In a previous podcast, we talked about alkalinity. You asked me about the importance of alkalinity. The more alkaline the body, the less inflammation there is in the body. This creates these really positive environments within our bodies, all of which we have absolute control over, by the way, Xavier. These are things that are all within our control: stress, sleep, nutrition, exercise. We control all of these. These are things that we can impact on in a positive sense. All of this releases further positive endorphins, which creates further positivity within the body's biology.
Why specifically does inflammation play a huge role in testosterone production?
When our bodies are really inflamed, our cells don't work well, plain and simple. There's lots of oxidative stress within our bodies that then really impacts the way our cells work. I talked earlier about our cells having good flexibility. For instance, the more oxidative stress we have in our bodies, the harder our cell walls become, for want of a better description. So that means, the positive flow of information in and out of the cells is really impacted. It takes longer for good, positive information to pass into the cells. They stay within the cells and trap within the cells longer. So oxidative stress increases before it's then excreted by our cells. So, it's really important that we limit inflammation within our body. Inflammation is one of the major causes of chronic disease, poor health, mental health issues. We really need our cells working at their optimum, understanding that our cells are dividing all of the time. And when our cells divide, we want our cells to divide in the best form of themselves as they can. So for that to happen, we need to have less inflammation. We need to have great nutrition. We need to have great blood flow. We need to have, really, really positive things happening within the body, all of which we can control. And when we're not controlling those and we're allowing stress to overwhelm us, or we're eating really poor quality foods, or we're not sleeping enough, or we're being too sedentary, these things impact our cells and the efficiency of our cells, and also the way our cells divide and reproduce themselves. So we want them to be reproducing themselves in the best version of themselves that they can be. When that's not happening, every other process in the body is compromised. And for a lot of people, and males in particular, that particularly impacts on our testosterone production. Hence, as you are very aware, you referred to those figures, by, our testosterone is reduced by, 30%, I think you said, since the 1900s. And that's because we have much more sedentary lifestyles, we have much poorer nutrition, and, we are far more stressed now than we ever used to be.
Phenomenal. Well, no, quite the adverse actually, but it's really interesting to hear. Really nice. Because it sounds like the reasons that we have seen these declining falls, the reason that we've seen these declines in testosterone are all very much factors that are inside our control, which does lead me to believe that we can reverse them fairly easily. Or if not easily, then simply.
Well, they're all lifestyle factors. So let's become active participants in our lifestyle, which then impacts on our health. And, then we can start to measure whether or not these changes that we make, or this ownership that we take, is having an impact. And really, that's what, our podcasts, and certainly Organelle, it's about creating that environment of ownership by being able to measure any of the areas of our biomarkers that we want to measure, and then learning what things we are doing that are impacting in a positive or a negative sense. Everything we do has a positive or negative reaction within the body. I choose to do as many things as I can to have a positive impact within the body. And I would hope that most people would have that same mindset of being an active participant and really working on owning the journey of their health and well-being. If you're particularly concerned about your testosterone levels, you've already made a change. You said to me earlier in the podcast that you've no longer had a Macca since you had your last testosterone measurement. Now, let's look at that. And I'm not here to denigrate Maccas in any way, shape, or form. But, the amount of pesticides, fungicides, hormones, and chemicals in a Macca's burger would be off the charts. If we ever broke it down and did an analysis on it, I think people would be horrified. They'd be even more horrified if they understood how those chemicals have a counter reaction within the human body. It would be frightening for most people, and they would probably take the same pathway you did, and that is to avoid it like the plague.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Let's summarize it all for the listener at home. Real quick, rapid fire, Lionel. What are the big things that we can do to fix our testosterone?
Improve sleep, exercise regularly, have a really, really, really balanced diet. Make sure we're getting adequate vitamin D. Make sure we're getting adequate C.
That sounds like everything the listener could want. Thank you so much for your time today, Lionel.